This town ain't big enough for the both of us, partner. You best get back on your horse and turn around. I'm gonna put that pretty face of yours in the dust. I'm gonna give you one more chance, otherwise you're gonna get real familiar with my good friend, Smith and Chiquita. You're asking for it now, sonny.
Hello, and welcome back to Gardening with Andrew. Today, we're going to be potting on some little baby tomatoes. These guys I've been growing in my indoor nursery in my closet. I have a grow light in there with like LED bulbs, and there's a fan blowing on them, and they live in my closet and become little babies, but not very big. It's not like they're becoming full-size plants in there. They're just becoming itty-bitty babies, big enough so that I can handle them individually. You want to get them when they're small because I grow them in trays, and the trays mean they're all growing next to each other, and the roots will tangle up and get all confuzzled with each other. So when you do remove them, if you wait too long, you're tearing all the roots apart, which is annoying. So you don't want to do that, but you don't want to do it too early either, because then they're too small and then you break them as you take them out, which is sort of annoying as well. So you got to get the right timing on that. So maybe today is the right day. We'll see. And I'm going to put them into a new kind of pot that I've been working with, made out of newspaper and a little bit of tape because it doesn't quite stick together. I've used newsprint, which is like what artists use to do drawing. And that works well too, but I ran out. So there's too many plants. So today we're going to be using newsprint. I'll show you how I roll them up and get that made into a little pot, because it's like a super cheap pot. And we have hundreds now, so we really need some cheap pots. After that, we're going to go outside and put them where they're going to live and get used to the outside environment. Today we're growing something that I got a year ago from my sister-in-law. It's called Tiny Tim. Yeah, there's another one called Tom Thumb, and then there's another one called Tiny Tom. So it's confusing, but this is Tiny Tim. It legit only gets this big. These are perfect for pots. So if you live in a house without a garden or like any space to actually plant tomatoes, this is the guy. This one's from So True Seeds in Asheville, North Carolina. So if you're on the East Coast, you know, it's probably a bit too early for these, but I'm going to try it anyway. So let's put these guys in pots, and then we'll take them outside and acclimatize them by putting them in the outdoor greenhouse so they can get used to being outside and having more light than they normally get, that kind of thing. Let's go! Whoop! Get yourself a bunch of newspaper, lay it out all flat on top of each other, cut it in half on one seam, then cut it in half on the other seam so you got quarters. Then take a single piece, fold it in half hot dog style, and crease the edges. Grab yourself a mason jar, and rolling it along the edge, the open side of the mason jar facing the open side of the newspaper. Grab it kind of by the top bit of the mason jar and carefully roll it up tight as you can to the other end there. Stand it up on its end and fold in the sticky outy bit of the newspaper. Start with the bit that's flappiest. Smush it down a bit, turn it over, and then if you've done a good job, you don't need to tape it. But if you haven't, then you tape it, basically. A longer piece of paper you probably won't need to tape. Take out the mason jar, flip it around, and use it to smush down hard as you can all the bits and bobs at the bottom there. This is a critical step. Don't skip it. And there you go. It looks really flimsy at this point, but once there's soil and water in there, it'll hold together well enough. So again, crease, roll, stand on end, fold, maybe tape, take out the mason jar, smush it down. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. Bam. 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 Bing. Grab yourself a pot. Put some dirt in the pot. Get yourself a seed tray, and using a fork or a flat thing of some kind, pry out one of the plants, being careful not to damage the roots. Move at it from every angle and kind of totally loosen it up before you try to extract it. When extracting, only grab by the leaves, never the stem. You want to be like a surgeon here. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Ease it out of the ground. Only holding it by the leaf because if you break the stem, the whole thing's gone, but if you break the leaf, it might survive. Then, the tricky bit, shield the plant while you add dirt from multiple angles. You're trying to keep the plant in the center, but it really wants to shift around. Don't let it. And then don't tamp down the soil. Instead, shake the pot, banging it on something to help tamp the dirt down. If you push on it with your hands like you want to, like your instinct will tell you to, it'll crush the little baby roots and the thing will die before it even gets a chance. So that's fill, pound, pry, ease, place, fill, pound, place, cat. What? Then just do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, till you're done. Pack it all up, and take it outside. And that's that. Nothing more really to it. We're going to leave them in there for probably a week or two at least, just so they can get used to the environment. I put them on a lower rack so they're getting some shade from the other plants in there. If you don't have a setup like this, just put it in a spot where it only gets light like a few hours a day, not even half a day, like a quarter of a day, and gradually move it, introducing it to more and more light. What can happen to these guys, what happened to the guys last week, is they get sunburnt, the radishes from last week. It takes almost nothing for them to get sunburned. If they're living indoors and they go outside, their leaves will start to get all white, kind of like they've been dried out almost. So once they've gotten used to the light temperature, I can move them up to the top rack. They'll get full light. Tomatoes love a lot of light, so that's where they're trying to go. And then once they're a bit bigger, I have no idea how much bigger, maybe when their roots are like poking out of the bottom, that probably is a good size. But at some point in the future, they'll be big enough to be put out into the soil where they can compete with that clay and start to dig down into the soil there. So that's the plan. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted. But now we got some tomatoes. Although no, these guys are going into pots, so that'll make their lives a bit easier. But the other tomatoes that we'll talk about later, those guys are going in the ground and they're going to be enormous. Okay, toodaloo. Goodbye. Okay, bye.